Well, hi everybody.
Overused
Welcome
word.
to the podcast. I'm here with Joey.
Hi,
Hi.
it's me. It's been a while.
I do want to apologize. My grandma's TV is blasting in the background. I don't think I tested it yesterday and I couldn't hear it, but it might pick up in the recording. So I apologize, but I don't think it will.
Huzzah.
I tested it yesterday and it did.
Uh, huzzah.
Also, for some reason, my headphones aren't working properly, so you might hear Joey echo a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, how's it been on the video game market for you, buddy? What have you been playing?
What have I been playing? Not much. I've just been going through all my old games and playing through them all again for the last 2 months because I
I
got
mean,
cut off from internet.
more.
That's why I've been gone for so long.
That's more than not much. I'll be real with you. That's a lot of games.
Ah, so many games. Hard to go through them all.
So, are there any that like have actually grabbed your interest more than usual?
That was
Because I
like
know you're
hot dog.
into
Look at
that.
this. I did for a brief second have internet, and I did manage to update like the full release of My Time at Samrock, and that's a really good, really good game. Just a
I've
very
heard good things.
good life simulator crafting game.
I've heard very good things. I'm still stuck on that Terraria grind, but that's because I'm basic.
Oh yeah.
Um, but no, I've heard my time extended Brock is very good. I mean, obviously there's the games that kickstarted too. That like some of them have come out. Some of the games I've followed have come out. Like Eternites, I had followed, and that came out. That was pretty good.
Speaking of
Uh,
things coming out early access, Paul World is coming out early access here soon on the
yeah,
16th.
I. It has. It feels like it could be another, and this is a positive. It feels like if it does its cards right, it could give the vibe of Sunset Overdrive, which
Listen,
is a great game.
with Power World,
But if
this is
it
either
doesn't,
gonna be
it's
the
gonna fall
greatest
flat.
game or the worst game ever. There's gonna be like no in between. That's what I feel
I'll be
with this
honest. I
game.
don't. I mean, there's legit no capacity for it to be the greatest game in the world. There is not. The fact that it's locked into one combat style, where you don't control the mons but the guns, and they're the mons, like that's it's gonna fall back. It could fall back into just another third person shooter. If
so,
they bring in certain things that could make it better than an average game, but that's about as high as I could see it going.
so have you ever played the Spectrobes games?
Yeah,
And I remember the first two were really bad, but the third one was really good because you could like combo with your
that,
Spectrobes and work together with them very fluidly.
that's not true. There's
Eh,
a reason I say this. It's because even though it adds abilities that you can do, the controls themselves were made worse.
that's true. But I'm just thinking to myself, if it
Therefore,
was
making
better
it
than it was, just like a little bit more time in the oven, it could have been really good.
that's not true. You said it's better. Uh, you said it's better, and it's just not.
Well, it's better
It
than the
makes
first two games. Is
when
basically what I
it's
meant.
no the first two games are more simple. Therefore, they're not trying to force you to do more than what the games themselves know they
Okay,
can
the first
produce.
game was crap. Like you
First
and me
game
were
was
not playing the
acceptable.
same game.
Yeah, we were. Yeah, if we're talking the third game, you and me were playing the same game. Uh, because adding more content and more control schemes to a game that doesn't control well is a tedium, not a fix.
I
Like
don't know. The third game could plays
when
almost
I play,
very differently than the first
uh,
two.
it
But
plays terribly. It,
yeah,
it's it it's not fluid whatsoever. It's 3D, so it has an easier chance at getting itself screwed. It's
I don't know. It's been a while since I
it's
played those ones.
somehow
Maybe
both
I should have brought
linear.
up a game I haven't played in
It
a while.
I've played it in the past like 3 years,
It's just
so
when I think of game where
this
you
is
fight
why
next to
I'm
your
saying
own monsters, that was the one I thought of. I can't really think of any other games like that.
uh, dude, Digimon World.
Digimon World? Did you fight next? I haven't played Digimon,
Yeah,
like the original Digimon World. I know each
like
one's very
specifically
different,
that
but
and Next Order. That and Next Order. Next Order specifically, yeah.
Like in a fighting way? I thought those
Uh,
were RPGs.
it's fighting.
Huh.
Like you're thinking Cyber Sleuth. Those are JRPGs.
Yeah. I know a lot of Digimon games are. I
Like
know one of the
Digimon.
Digimon worlds is a JRPG. So you gotta be like very specific with me because
There's
there's a
oh,
lot of like
right. That's why I said the
JRPGs mixed
original
with
Jesse.
not JRPGs with Digimon.
Right, but that's why I said the original Jesse.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't played all the
Like I
Digimon games.
specified. I know that 2, 3 are 2 and 3 are JRPGs, like turn based. 4 is a
Oh, we
Diablo.
played 4 on the
really bad
channel.
one.
If you want to know how I feel about 4, ooh boy.
It's not. It had. I mean, I don't mind the concept of giving them cool weapons. I still think that's fun. I think that the main issue I have with it, because everybody wanted to be able to, is digivolving is too complex, too complicated.
Well, the
It's
game's
way
also
too
really
complicated.
tedious.
Like, I mean, yeah, most Diablo likes are like you got to pick and choose your favorites. Like whenever I recommend one to somebody, the Van Helsing trilogy is fun. Victor Vran is fun. Path of Exile, Clash of Titans.
Oh yeah.
These are all ones that I would recommend to people. But that one is one I would recommend to a child because it's simple. It's very simplistic.
Excuse me. I played Gauntlet in the arcades. And Gauntlet came out before Diablo, so we should call them Diablo clones. No, or not Diablo clones. Gauntlet clones.
Yeah, that's right. Diablo codes.
Sorry.
I mean, to
I'm
be fair,
tired.
Gauntlet only.
We're doing this
Yeah, no,
podcast
Gauntlet
late.
only existed for because Jesse forgot.
I know.
He forgot about me.
I know. I
But
was busy. You know, for the first time with the internet, I had to reconnect with all my friends and be social and stuff.
verbalize. How dare you verbalize with people?
I know.
Nobody verbalizes
Grandma
with
wanted
people.
me to go out and get her some beer and stuff. And I was like, ah, damn it. I didn't want to leave the house today, but you know, she was throwing a hissy fit. Eh, happens.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing to note here is, I, I mean, saying something like that also doesn't make sense to me, and I'll say why. Because if we were going to go that route, Ultima clones instead of Elder Scrolls clones would be the thing I'd say.
Oh yeah.
Because Ultima inspired the Elder Scrolls and Baldur's Gate.
To be fair, I don't see people calling those games Elder Scrolls clones. They just call them RPGs.
I mean, they haven't made enough Elder Scrolls clones to do it. They haven't made like, think about it. How many have they made? Like, for real?
I mean, if you want to play like an Ultima game, I think the Grimrock games just got released on the Switch. Those are really good. You know,
Those don't play like
old,
Ultima.
really
The
old
thing to
school like
note here
computer
is that,
RPGs.
yeah, like the origin of independent running world RPGs, because they were the first ones to do it in '93,
Yeah.
which is a very important moment in video game history, because the entire reason that your save file in Elder Scrolls is 18 gigabytes is because everything in the world stays in the world, including all those cheese blocks you left on the ground.
Oh yeah.
So they're they're consistently like loaded and put into backup data. And
Yep.
so it takes so much space on your console or PC. So
Does
yeah,
Starfield
that's
do the
that.
same
Thank
thing?
you, Ultima. Making my cheese. Does what?
Does Starfield do that?
Starfield? Yeah, most RPGs done by Bethesda do that now.
Yeah, I
I
figured.
actually think a
I
majority of
figured it's
games
just
that are
that
open
like
world do that now.
Starfield's all like, haha, we got the whole galaxy. I'm like, are you keeping everything like memorized like that? If I go to every
It's the
planet and hide a
reason,
bunch of cheese,
like,
can I destroy the game?
it is the reason that making a procedurally generation system is probably a little bit nicer for your PC.
Oh yeah.
Uh, Not the way they did it in No Man's Sky though, because if you do it the way they did it in No Man's Sky, your PC's gonna explode.
I mean, you can also do it like in Breath of the Wild, where you have like every X amount of days it flushes the system. That's what the blood moons were.
And I'll be real, Breath of the Wild. You know something? You want to know something really depressing?
Yeah,
The Wii U has the exact same power output as the Switch.
I know. I
So
know.
like, my phone has more power than that.
I
So
know.
they need to sweep the system. They cannot have an open world game that doesn't either offload assets or just fucking say no. We're redoing the whole thing.
I know. I mean, for a game that has a lot of flying in it, if you actually like looked out in the environment while you're flying, you'd be like, "Oh God, this looks awful," because everything's unloaded.
That's why Scarlet and Violet are so rough.
Oh
Like
yeah.
they're really fun games. And they look good if you see like the model designs and all that. It's just the console is not strong enough to deal with the game.
Well, playing through Skyward Sword, I've noticed a lot of walls are blocking your view of future areas, and I wonder why.
Welcome to the Wii. That's the Wii right there, baby. That's the Wii.
Yeah.
That thing was behind the times. No, the Wii. That wasn't the reason Skyward Sword got shot on though. It's because it was so overtly limited in what you could do. Like their whole prospect here was they were adding some openness to the world, right? You could fly
Yes.
around. You could pick an area to drop into, which unfortunately became tedious, as Barry Kramer so eloquently framed it for us. One of the big things I look at though is I feel like I can do more in Wind Waker. Like
Oh
when
yeah.
I'm in that world, I feel like I can do more in Twilight Princess, and I'll be real. Twilight Princess is closed off for a majority of the game. That's unfortunate. I can go
It's
wherever I want in Wind Waker.
it's like I guess so with Twilight Princess and Wind Waker, they're very good at making like very bite-sized challenges hidden throughout the world, and I think that really like
I
makes
mean,
it
they
more
build a
exciting to
dungeon for
find
a player.
stuff because then you find like this little area with its own little challenge that's unique to itself.
Uh huh.
And Wind Waker
Well,
and Twilight Princess both have these hidden throughout the world. Wind
I
Waker
mean, they build
especially, but
dungeons.
Twilight Princess has some really good ones too. And I think they kind of lost
I
that.
mean, I love that Wind Waker has them. Yeah, no, Wind Waker has the puzzle island.
Oh yeah, several puzzly islands. And
I mean,
needle secrets to discover
like
on
there's a
them.
reason Breath of the
And
Wild had the four corners.
um, Breath of the Wild kind of brought a lot of that back with the shrines, but the shrines are so like not part of the environment.
Those are limited. So, yeah, those shouldn't have been as big a deal as they were. Those should have been a side project.
It feels to me like
Like you should have had those. Like, I don't mind that. Right.
I feel like if you could like cut the amount of environmental challenges in half and make them actually part of the world, I think I'd appreciate them a lot more. But no, they're not part of the world. You don't get to do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's true.
And then like
The big thing I know is, I mean, if we take the parts of the world that we find tedious and still keep them in there, like it's not what's there, it's what's not there, right?
yeah.
And if we were to add like full on Dutch, I mean, Tears of the Kingdom showcase really good boss design.
Oh yeah, they finally added the cool bosses, dude. When I fought freaking Cold
Well, I
Duca,
mean,
man, it was like that thing was rad. Massive Wind Waker reference with the music and everything, and it's like hell yeah.
well, I mean, the big thing I notate is I'm like, here's how you get good boss design. Remember when you had to fly down the mountain fighting the dragon in Breath of the Wild? That was the best boss in the game. Anybody can say whatever they want. That was the best boss in the game. It was action packed. It was intimidating because you know going near these dragons harms you. You cannot kill them, uh, and it's visible from a ways away. Also, you're on a mountain peak. Like that's an intimidating boss design, especially in a game with not many intimidating boss designs.
I kind
You
of
don't
forget
fight
that
the
that's even
giant
in there, but yeah,
beasts.
that is a decent boss in a game that doesn't have
Like
bosses.
it's a big. Well, I mean, a big thing to note here is like there are bosses,
Not
but
good
instead
ones.
of fighting the guardian beasts, which would be intense, you fight shadow Ganons, like multiple shadow
I
Ganons,
always
which
said
isn't
that
unheard of.
it'd be cooler if they were possessing the corpses of your friends and using that as a boss fight. That'd be
That'd be
rad.
really. I agree, 100%. That would be really cool. That would be really dark, and I don't know if they'd be willing to do that,
Oh,
but
this
I
is
do agree it would be cool.
Zelda. They've gone really dark before.
That's darker than I've ever seen them go. Zelda wasn't dead when Ganondorf possessed her, and she was fine. So like they've never done something like that.
No, I think it'd be
That
fine.
that would be a first, unless you can point out another instance of them doing something like that. I don't think that they would dare.
Probably.
Because
I think it'd be
because
rad
the
if they
closest
did.
we get is Zelda getting. Yeah, no. As I said, I agree. I think it would be really cool. I don't think it falls in line with how they write their series, so they wouldn't do it.
I
The
guess.
closest we've gotten with Twilight Princess was Zelda being possessed, and they didn't even like she wasn't even hurt. Somehow, after I beat her with the volleyball explosives, somehow she was fine. But like, yeah, that's a perfect example in my mind. Is like it's just it doesn't happen.
I just think, to like
Um,
Orchard of Time and it's like torture dungeon and stuff. So it's like it's not like they didn't
right.
have
I
like
mean, the
strong hints
things
of dark
exist.
shit. But I guess
Yeah,
having
no,
it
the
like
things
overtly in front of
exist,
you
but
like that is probably a little bit further than they've ever done.
and not even just the overtness, but like who it's done to. Like we also need to notate here that like it goes a step further when you deal with the main character's friends,
Yeah.
which like it wasn't even kind of hinted at in in the original. So like I don't know.
I think it would be cooler, but yeah, sometimes Nintendo's own like Nintendo could really scare away from the cool shit sometimes, man. It's like here's a really cool shit that we could do, and it's like no, too scary, don't do it, make it worse.
Yeah, I mean
And like they don't have to be zombies. You could just like make shadow evil versions of them, like
no, they
Phantom
don't.
Ganon.
I can agree with that. I mean, I think that it would lose a lot of the punch if we made them just shadows. I do think if you're going to do it,
We would
you would have
lose
to do
some
the
of the punch,
friends.
but we'd still
But
have the punch. So
yeah, well, I mean, rule of thumb with these things: if you're not going to shoot the gun, don't load the chamber,
I guess.
because then you misfire. But like either way, the big thing to note here with Zelda is they've teetered on writing dark before. Have you read? Like we've talked about this in the past, but have you read their? Had a chance to read their
Oh
mangas
yeah,
yet?
the manga actually like spells out all the dark shit that you've only assumed, and will
Well,
definitely
the
show it off.
manga goes along a story arc that is deviating from the main story on often occasions. Like for example, in Link to the Past, spoilers for anybody who wants to read the manga. Link fucking dies.
Oh
He
yeah,
dies at the end of Link to the Past in the manga, not in the game. In the manga, I want to make sure that's clear. That he dies in one and does not in the other. But like that's different. That's an extreme difference, right?
right.
Because especially now that Link Between Worlds exists, and we know that like he had an heir. Like, it's an alternate timeline. He does not have an heir in this alternate timeline.
Yeah.
Because obviously he was a child when he died, and the ramifications of saying he had an heir is intimidating and gross.
Listen,
So I don't want to hear it.
he has ancestors in later games. That means Link has fucked.
Well,
Canonically.
one of the big theories that I've actually seen that makes a lot of sense to me is, like, for example, Toon Link is not actually a member of the Link clan, which I'll call it from now on, because Link isn't actually reincarnated. He's part of a lineage. And a reason I think this is because the Master Sword didn't lose its power after this thing. It has to choose who wields it.
So I
Kind of
am
like
kind of
Naomi.
like 50-50 on that, because in Wind Waker people know, like, the gods noticed he wasn't part of the clan. He was just some random kid who, got the power through hard work. But like in other games, they notice right away that he is part of the clan. So I think it's like some links are and some links.
Okay, so let me specify specifically Minish Cap, obviously, because that's the earliest one before after Skyward Sword. So, like, they haven't found the blade yet. It's been lost to time, so I'm not going to even worry about that one. We can cut that one off.
Well,
We
Minish
don't
Cap
know.
Link could totally
Um,
not be like part of the Link clan. He could be like Wind Waker. Link could be like a
oh,
random.
it's true, but it's so early, like in between when it matters. We don't know. Like, Ganon isn't even a thing yet, and the Master Sword isn't even a thing yet. Like they exist,
Yeah.
but they have not come to exist at his time. So I'm gonna put those to the corner. Four Swords Link, though, has been dictated to be that Link, to
Uh,
be a part of the clan.
Triforce
Whilst
Heroes Link have been officially declared just three random people who showed up, who
yeah,
coincidentally
I
look
mean,
like him.
Wind Waker Link was definitely not part of the clan. He
Yeah.
gained his power through trials.
Which would
Like,
mean
he didn't
Spirit
just find
Tracks
he's
Link isn't
opening a
part of it
door.
either, because he's from Wind Waker Link. But
Yeah, which I mean,
which
and
kind of
that's
muddies the
the point.
that kind of muddies the waters though, because now there's like two different lines inheriting the power. It's like, wait.
Well, it's not. No. Let's be clear. Those links almost always have to earn it.
That's
That's
true.
the big thing with them is they always have to earn it. They have a personal connection, oftentimes, with the Zelda. Almost every single time. That's a big thing to note with Toon Links as well. Is they have a much more personalized connection with Zelda
I mean, if
instead
you
of
look,
coming
that's
upon a
also true
connection with
because
Zelda
if
in
you look at
in
Skyward Sword Link, who has a very personal connection with Zelda, I mean, at the beginning of that game, he was just some random scrub too. Like, there was no lineage to be a part of. He was just a
yeah.
guy.
I mean, like a really good fan series is called A Hero's Purpose, and the reason I say it's a good fan series is because it is not canon, and I think that a majority of things in it are obviously head canon, but it paints a picture, and that picture is, why does Link feel compelled to do what he does? Why does Ganondorf feel compelled to do what he does? As every single male ever born in the Gerudo timeline, we don't hear of the ones that do anything good. We only hear of Ganondorf every time, and he always hurts people.
Well, there's with Tears of the Kingdom,
So
there's been
why?
a very like interesting thing to note. Have you gotten the 100 shrine prize for Tears of the Kingdom yet? This is gonna be a big spoiler. So
Yes,
uh so
yes. Spoilers for Tears of the Kingdom.
yeah, this is a big spoiler for Tears of the Kingdom. 100 all getting all the shrines. Your prize is the hero's aspect where you get to become the Link that was not the Link, but the hero who was pictured fighting the Calamity before Breath of the Wild Link. It was at the beginning of Breath of the Wild. You become that hero, and he is not a Link at all. He is someone completely different. So someone fought Ganondorf who was not a Link.
Yep.
Which really throws stuff off that it's like, well, you
Well,
don't even have to be a Link to fight Ganondorf, I guess.
well, no, that's. I mean, we pointed that out by the fact that, like, your character tends to be named Link, but they're not part of the lineage.
Yeah,
That's why that
with
theory
Wind Waker
makes
and stuff, but
sense.
at least
But
with like
also,
Wind Waker Link, it's
why
like he
would you need
looks
to
like
give
the Link. He is kind of a Link, even if he's
Oh,
not like part of the lineage. But like
my big
then this guy
question here
comes
is
along
that
and he's not
theory.
like Link at all. He's someone completely different.
Right.
It's
I
like,
mean, but like that begs the question: why are we relegating Link?
well, you know what? A
Why?
lot of people were saying that they want a
Like
game where
in
Zelda is the
theory,
main character and Link's the one who's like the prince. You know, Zelda's the hero, Link's the prince. But I
I
want
think
one where the
Zelda's his
freaking Gerudo
own
male,
series.
who's
I
supposed to
don't.
be
I
Ganondorf,
don't
is the
think.
main character. You know, shake up
I
these
think
roles,
that
man.
both of those characters. Hold up. If we do a game, it's not going to be The Legend of Zelda. We need to name it something else.
Okay.
I agree. They should get their own games where they have the alternate
Call it
what ifs.
Triforce Legends.
But
That actually
I don't
fit
think
a lot better.
I don't I don't think Ganondorf's ever going to get it. This was the best chance they had to do it. Everybody was headcanoning that he was going to be like a good friend that took on a curse for those two, and I was like, I'm here for it because that
Oh
would have
yeah,
been dope.
dude!
But
All
that's
the
not what they did,
rehydrated
right?
Ganon cannons that people were coming up with.
Dude, he's hot.
Oh yeah, I mean he
But
still
like
is. That
either
didn't
way,
that was true, but
Zelda should get her own game, but it cannot be the Legend of Zelda. Ironically, if
ironically,
she was going to help, well, because like you also can think of here, if there's a Link there who is from the lineage, his job will be to. I mean, if we want a Link that needs to be saved by a Zelda, keep your main character as Link, but have Zelda be his mentor.
okay. So here's what we do, right? We get a
And
Zelda
then,
game, and she has to
and then if
rescue.
you have Link,
No. Okay, hear me out. What we do is we get a Zelda game, right? And she has to rescue Ganondorf from Link. It will be called Legend of Ganondorf. And then we get Ganondorf where he has to rescue Link from Zelda, and we call that Legend of Link. And it gets really fucking confusing. And that's what we do.
yeah, you've lost the plot. It's a little bit too much. You had something almost. The big thing I was going to note here is we have a Legend of Zelda game where Link hasn't. His lineage is gone,
Oh, yeah.
and Zelda's forced to try to hold out the fort by herself, and she can't, and you lose. I think that would be a bit because the point here is you need the three.
I mean, you
The
kind of
point
get that
here
in
is to
Hyrule
keep the
Warriors,
cycle
where you
going.
have like a brief second where you play as Ganondorf, and it's just like Link's off doing something else, so Ganondorf just storms through everyone. You
Yeah,
kind of get that
because
from
like to be
Hyrule
clear,
Warriors for a
it
brief
takes
second.
Zelda and it takes Zelda and Link to deal with Ganon because the Triforce of Power has the ability to make physically the strongest being on the planet, but also immortal, which the other two do not give you. So like
I don't know.
the
Wisdom gives
only
you a
way to
lot of
take
cool
it from you
magic
is to
powers.
make them unworthy. It gives her high end magical powers and it gives her regenerative property, but she's not immortal.
And not nearly as much magical power as
And
Ganondorf.
Link's and Link just gains ridiculous potential aptitude.
I mean, a lot of people will
Because
like
his
theorize
lineage
that
is,
all the video game mechanics Link has is actually the Triforce of Courage's power.
I mean, it's actually arguable because like let's be clear, he didn't gain the Triforce of Courage immediately in Twilight Princess, but he was able to just yuck a whole ass giant goat, like it was made out of turkey. He just tossed it over his shoulder,
Oh,
and I'm
yeah.
like, okay, he's not weak. He's small, but
Farm
he's
boy
not
Link
weak.
is strong.
It, I mean, like that's my point here, though, is like they all have their own abilities, aptitude that they gain with the Triforce. It gives them a higher ceiling, if that makes sense. The big thing that
But
Link
then we get to
has
Wind Waker
is
Link, who
not
doesn't have the
like
Triforce of
they've said
Courage
it,
and doesn't really seem to gain any powers when he gets it. He just gets
no,
it. It's like, okay,
as I
you can
was
go
going
to
to say,
Hyrule now.
he's you got to be intelligent. Well, you got to be intelligent on how you fight is a main factor of how they fight.
Yeah.
Is you need to use your mind when you're fighting. and that's ironically he doesn't have the Triforce of Wisdom because it would make more sense because he has to think about how he fights. But obviously, I get it. Mage, warrior, random 3 tier
Well,
evolutions
I
from
also
target.
don't think, like,
Uh,
I pointed out just a little while ago, both wisdom and power give you a lot of high magical power. It's not like each power is exclusive to one or another. The courage guy can be smart, and the
well,
wisdom person can be powerful.
let me specify. What let me specify because they actually do have specific powers that allocate to them.
They
Power is
do,
nebulous, which means he has a lot of power, but he will never have as much magical power as Zelda, which is why in every iteration we see him take on magical masters to gain some sort of edge, but he still never does. That's why Zelda's able to hold back an aspect of him by herself in Breath of the Wild. That's why he had to storm the castle with a magical based force in Twilight Princess when she's literally the only mage there. Let's be real. Who's holding them off herself? Let's be real. Um,
I mean, at
that's
least
why
it indicates to
you know.
Twilight Princess that Zelda basically gave up because he was holding the rest of the kingdom hostage at that point, so.
Yes, yes. Because the big thing to note here is she was able to defend the castle
Yeah.
if she needed to. She could have defended her position just fine. The problem is she can't defend the whole castle.
And
But
all the
she's
people
like all
outside.
the real game. Yeah, I mean, she just couldn't do it. The big thing to note here is Zelda has more power than anybody else. She does. Vati, bitch, please. Ganondorf, even with training, no, he's physically the strongest character in the series,
I mean, we see
but
that in
he'll
Tears of
never
the
be
Kingdom
magically
to
the
a certain
strongest
extent,
because of
where
the nature of the Triforce of Wisdom.
we see that in Tears of the Kingdom to a certain extent, where during the flashbacks, Ganondorf fails his frontal assault and is only able to get what he needs after he does like a sneak attack and steals one of the magical MacGuffins. So,
Yeah,
so he has to do a
and that's
sneak
I mean,
attack and then
if
steal one of the magical boosting artifacts in order to get as strong as he is.
I mean
Which,
if he did have the ability to just throw magic out and win the fight, he wouldn't have even put his feet on the ground. Like if we can just say it how it is here, he wouldn't have touched the ground to attack them. He wouldn't.
well, to be fair,
Because
he tried to do that in
why?
Orca of
You
Time, and
know,
that's when
Ganondorf is a
Ganonball was
wily.
invented.
Say it one more time.
Well, he tried to do that in Orca of Time, and that's how Ganonball got invented. So you know.
It's true. I mean, the big thing to note here is like we see what his magic can do more in the manga again. Unfortunately, we don't get to see it very much, other than in the one of the best openings in any Zelda, the time lapse for Wind Waker.
Oh yeah.
That one also showcases some of his magic ability. Ball was also a thing in Link to the Past, Jesse. That was where that was invented.
Um, God, I wish we had like a proper cutscene of the internal night happening in Wind Waker. It's just like it just kind of gets mentioned, and it's like, oh yeah, I guess that's happening. It's like I wish we had like a proper cutscene of Ganondorf coming out and be like, "Eternal night, bitches." Actually, see Ganondorf do some sick magic.
Yeah,
And then when you
I
get the
mean,
pearl, it's like, ah, the spell's
I
gone.
think
It's like,
they
what?
the
This sounds like some high level shit, and it's just there and gone with barely a mention.
I mean, what I would have done, and I believe they did, because they have a manga of that one, is they had him cast the magic to try, and they had him try to stir up the seas, so Link couldn't get through the temple, and it flooded the temple. And Link got the pearl, and the pearl basically cast dispel magic.
See, that's rad. If only that was in the game.
I
Cool
agree. I
story.
mean,
Wish it
it's
was
a
in the game.
GameCube game, though. It looked better than it ever did.
uh,
It's fine. I agree. It looked better than it ever had any right to, though.
ugh.
Like as a game and gameplay, and it still controls well. That's what's freaky to me. Like you play it today, it still controls very well.
Oh yeah, all the Legend of Zelda games actually control fantastically. Yeah, Ocarina of Time's
Yeah,
still a little rough, but
Skyward Sword. Ocarina of Time is doable, but Skyward Sword, no, that's a
Skyward Sword is hoof. They remade it for the Switch, and it now controls decent.
yeah. I mean, it's acceptable. It's still got the issues it had before, where it's kind of soulless,
Yeah.
but like it's still got the issues. A big thing I keep in mind whenever I play a Zelda game is I can't judge it by a AAA stand, which is really weird for me to say because like they're some of the best games.
Well, it's like
Period. Like if we're just talking about adventures and shit.
it's like
But
okay,
like I
so okay,
can't
here's the
judge it
game I
with
played
something
over
like
this 2 month
Oblivion.
period. I'm kind of changing the subject because it's kind of similar on to what we were talking about. I played through Mario Wonder throughout this week. I got
Right.
Mario Wonder, right? The Mario game. And I'm playing this game. I'm like, this is a really fun, good platformer. And I cannot judge it against any other AAA game because it will get like way lower score than it deserves. If I try to be
Oh,
super
if
objectional
you
about
gauge
it,
it in
it's
its
going to get a
own
way
like
lower score
universe,
than I feel like it deserves. Sorry, what did you say?
well, I was gonna say like it's a big thing to note. Like Mario games can easily trounce a AAA game if they try.
Yeah.
This one can be in the conversation. I think it's one of the best platformers ever made. Just like every Mario game, every time they release a fucking new one these days. Odyssey, I think, is easily able to touch AAA games. For example, it's just you have so many that don't hit the mark. What's a good example? Zelda games we were talking about. Oracle of Ages and Seasons. I would never gauge them as compared to like
Ooh,
Pokemon
that's a
in
hard one
terms of
because those
like
two games are really good,
which one's
Joey.
better because Pokemon's objective.
Those two are really good, Joey.
They are very good,
They
but
are
you
Awakening,
need to
but a
buy them both to
sequel.
get the ending.
That's true. That whole linking thing.
You need to buy them both to get the Awakening. You like with Pokemon, you literally just need a friend. You don't need to buy the second game. With Oracle of Ages and Seasons, you have to own the second game to finish the game.
That's true.
Now, if I were to say like a Link's Awakening, that one's still one of my favorite Game Boy games of all time. And even I can say there are better Game Boy games out. Like that one's a big one for me. Sure, but like it reused assets up the ass, and that's why I think it's fun because it's jank. Like I love that I got an item from the goddamn villain of Doki Doki Panic. That's great. That's hysterical. But I recognize at the same time that Mario 2 or my one of my other favorite games would belong up there too. The first Wario World or Land, sorry. The first Wario Land, which was actually Mario Land 3 Wario Land, is one of my favorite games. And it started a trend. The entire reason, for those of you listening, the entire reason that Luigi's Mansion has the money-based credit system that gives you more the more you get came out of that. That
Oh
came out
yeah,
of Wario Land, which came out of Mario Land, which came out of the Game Boy.
dude.
So
All
if
the
you say I
Wario Land
love
games are great,
Luigi's Mansion,
and Warrior World,
yeah,
and Wario Land Shake
if
It.
you say I love, if you say I love Luigi or Luigi's Mansion, you have to thank Wario and ironically in turn Mario in the process for giving them the game
Which you
via
then have to thank
transitive
Donkey
property.
Kong for being the first. Sorry, I'm just like, let's follow this
Yeah,
rabbit hole.
yeah, no, Donkey Kong was the first Game Boy game to expand into property because Donkey Kong on the Game Boy, I recommend to everybody. It's one of the best Game Boy games ever made because it
Speaking of which,
expands
they're
what was already
remaking
there,
Donkey Kong on the Game Boy.
which is good. People are gonna have a great time. It's so good. Then we don't need to do that stupid mission in fucking Donkey Kong 64 ever again.
What? Donkey Kong 64's stupid missions are great. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I remember exactly how much fun you. I remember exactly how much joy you were
What?
having when you were doing.
Beat the entirety of the original Donkey Kong in one life? Pfft, easy. You gotta be a real gamer, Joey. Real gamer.
I mean, you had a video, man. Like
What's that?
you
You
had
did
it
it
on.
once? Well, now do it again, but harder.
Yeah, no, you
Okay,
have it on
real
video.
gamer shit, Joey. Get on my level.
I watched you suffer, so like, I know what happened. I was there, so don't try to pull the wool from my eyes, Mister.
I know.
I watched it happen. You were suffering,
I know.
but yeah, no. The big thing to note here, though, is I'm actually pretty welcome to the remake scene, right? If I can just go on a listing, there are games that are getting more than ever
It's weird. Lately, I've
before.
been feel. Okay, sorry, this is a weird tangent, but lately it's weird because like when I was a kid, I knew a lot of people who loved Donkey Kong 64, but then as I grew up and got online, it seemed like a lot of people really didn't like Donkey Kong 64, and then now recently I've been hearing a lot of people talk about Donkey Kong 64 positively again. I'm like, fucking make up your mind, society. Do you like this game or not?
Well, it's a worse controlling Banjo Kazooie, Jesse. That's
Listen,
the
there's a
big thing.
lot to like in the game. It's just really fucking rough.
I agree. I mean, the thing I said is the thing I said. There's a reason Banjo Kazooie, though, FPS segments. Um,
Well, okay, I will
I
say
think
this. I think a lot of the goodness I have for Donkey Kong 64 is because I never tried to 100% it when I was a kid. I just did all the fun bananas. I skipped all the bullshit ones.
I mean, even then there wasn't like once again. There's infinitely more good in Banjo Kazooie. Talking Rick, there's four of them. Conquer, I don't tend to talk about other than it's okay comedy with really floaty controls. Like its controls are objectively worse than
Conquer
Banjo
is a rough
Kazooie's.
one because the appeal of that is like the comedy, and so it's like,
It
how
also,
do you
it
rate this
also
thing?
does some jokes that have.
Yeah.
I mean, it also has done some jokes that have not aged well today. Like just like certain gay jokes are just not acceptable. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Still kind of fun
Um,
whenever I see the rare streamer stream it, though. It's fun to see their reactions to it.
that's true. I mean, the big thing to note here is it controls not well. Like it's an acceptable platformer, but like its platforming is floaty and not as good as what they made prior, which is unacceptable to me because it's what they made prior. You know, like if it's newer, it should control better,
Yeah, that's true.
especially if it's on the same console, man. Um, Another good example is Banjo Tooie. Everything about it controlled better, but they added a really bad first person shooter mechanic. Same with Conquer, by the way, but that one was worse.
To be fair,
But
those
a
first
first
person
person
shooter
shooter
mechanics only showed up
nobody destroyed.
occasionally. So
Right,
there's
but
also
if you wanted to finish the game, you had to do it.
it's one of those things where it's like Donkey Kong 64 where it's like, well, if you just skip all the parts you don't like, which you could totally do, then it's fine.
I mean, they do force you to do some of those. They have you do two first person shooter segments in the game. They force you into them, and then they have you do one flying segment that requires frame perfect input. Which that's three strikes. They're out, Jesse. You know they're not as good as their first game because of that. There's
Wait,
none of
which one
that.
flying
The
section is
worst thing
required?
in it's the one on the mountain with the birds on it in Banjo Tooie. It's basically right after you finish the carnival, you can connect to this mountain as a cross
Yeah, but
way
was that
between like
required?
areas. Yeah, it was required.
I don't
You
remember.
know how I figured it out because I unfortunately was playing through it, and I found out the hard way by giving up, being like, I don't want this for my life. Um, but the other thing I was going to say is Banjo Kazooie's worst thing was just the and literal end, like right before you fight Gruntilda, you do the board game,
Oh yeah. I hope
which
you've been talking to that
it
random
can be
fairy
annoying,
character and remembering everything she ever says.
which can be annoying, but it's actually not too hard to do, even with. Uh, Now, with that being said, Donkey Kong Country is really good in a lot of aspects, as you said, but it's really bad in a lot of. Mainly, just the controls weren't better once again.
I will say part of that is because of the controller we were using. If you're on the uh N64 control, which usually people don't like the N64 control, but considering that a lot of the mechanics are controlled but with via the crouch button, which is very easy to use on the N64, it actually does work a lot better with the right controller.
I'm talking about the N64 controller. This is me talking about the N64 controller. The main issue with the game is it's floaty, like Conquer, which is bad, especially when you need pinpoint accuracy on some of your jumps when you have a bad camera system, because
That's
they have
true.
a bad camera system. The reason Banjo-Kazooie was acceptable was because of its pinpoint motion. I can have a bad camera as long as I have good motion. It's par for course on the N64. It's why Mario 64 is so difficult to master because it has a really bad camera and it's got just barely not pinpoint like movement. So like you think you're gonna land something and then you run like takes a step. Doesn't take multiple steps, right? He takes a step and that makes you fall.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, the big thing to note here is the remakes are necessary. I honestly think one of the biggest mistakes Nintendo ever made, and I think in gaming, was Rareware being allowing themselves to be sold to Xbox because they did nothing good with them.
I mean,
Grab by the
God.
Goose flat. Perfect Dark Zero was awful. Banjo Kazooie Nuts and Bolts itself way better, especially since there was a big world that could have been used for platforming, and they didn't have any platforming being done in it.
One of these
It's
days I'll
it's
have to. I got a let's play Nuts and Bolts because boy oh boy is that do I have some fun things to say about that one.
it's such an empty open world. Like what a waste of potential. Because like there really was so much potential in the game. Uh, People who never played it, because there were a lot of people who played it. I'm like, usually if people want to build their own carts and stuff, I usually would have pointed them to Mod Nation respect because that one is objectively better. Oh, it's objectively better. Um, but you can't escape the impact of Banjo Kazooie, and everybody was forward to it. And the big thing, last game we had gotten for it was on the Game Boy Advance,
Oh, there was a Game Boy
which,
Advance Banjo Kazooie game, wasn't there?
yeah, that was the last one we got. And it didn't do well, as expected, unfortunately.
But to be fair, I barely remember it exists half the time. I don't remember
I
any
mean,
advertisements for it when I was a kid or anything.
well, do you know why? There's a reason.
Because
This was in the middle of the purchase.
yeah, because Rare was getting out of it.
Yeah, so they probably negotiated that they
I just
advertise
heard. Are you watching a
their
Mario
property
64 video?
on the console.
Because I just heard Mario
Huh?
64 noises.
No,
Am I am I going
I think
crazy,
you're
Joey?
hearing things.
You know what? Forget it. Anyways,
I
continue
mean,
what
you've
you're
been
saying.
crazy. Yeah, you've been crazy.
I have been crazy.
But no, that's a big thing I note here is like you've got a lot of these older games that are known that are getting more, mainly because the gaming market's crashing a little bit, the collector market because the grading system is kind of a scam,
Oh yeah, I just graded
and
all my Xbox 360 games. Did you know you can get up to $10 more if there's a freaking if you didn't get rid of the freaking book inside of it? It's matter if the game's
Yeah, you can
perfectly
get
good.
10
If
to
you don't
50
got
bucks more.
all of the special stuff on the inside, it's like a massive markdown. Fucking ripoff.
Dude, one of the hardest sells I had to do, like one of the hardest things I had to sell in my life. It's one of my favorite games of all time. It's a PS2 game. It's Wild Arms Alter Code F,
Oh,
the
you got rid of
remake
one of
of
your
the
Wild
first
Arms
Wild
games?
Arms, and it comes. Yeah, I had to,
Joey.
but like, yeah, no, that was the hardest one. Yeah, what's up?
Okay. I just got an idea. Oh, hold on, Joey. You talking to someone
Yeah,
else?
yeah, I'm waiting for you.
Joey, we're podcasting.
I know, I'm right here.
Okay. I thought you were talking to someone else. Sound like you were.
No,
I just got a weird idea for a video game. Okay.
oh no,
Okay. It's a JRPG, right? And it's a JRPG, and it has
no,
like
don't go
mini
about it.
games to do your moves similar to like what the Mario games do, or like what you know yeah, some mini games, but the mini games are like a shooting game. Do shoot 'em up.
Uh, mm, mm,
Sorry, that just
I
popped into
don't
my
know
brain.
about that.
Because when you
I
said
think if
you were selling a Wild Arms games,
it
my brain, like for some reason, was like, what if you had to sell like a toy gun that was attached to the game that went with it, like a collector's gun? And then I was like, wait a minute, what if there was like an End Zapper Wild Arms game where you shoot the bad guys as a mini game for an RPG? Holy shit! Sorry.
Oh, I lost your audio.
Oh no, you lost my already. Lost my
There
good
you are.
idea. My good
Yep,
idea.
lost your good idea.
Oh well, too bad. We're moving on.
Moving on.
Moving on.
But yeah, no, that's a. I mean, I guess.
It's just one of those things. Oh well, I had to sell my Xenoblade 2 special edition recently. I'm not happy about that.
Six.
Oh well.
Yeah, it's six.
It's like, no, but this special thing I love, it's gone forever. Oh well.
Well, get it back eventually.
Eventually. Um. Yeah. What else? Honestly, this might actually be a good time to end this episode.
Yeah, it's about an hour.
Yeah. So I hope you all enjoyed this episode. Bye.
Peace.